And do these beings really exist, or are they simply a hallucination? Let's find out. Let me tell you something that will completely blow your mind. An accounting of the matter that makes up the universe reveals that some 73% of it is made up of dark energy, and another 23% is made up of dark matter, neither of which can we see nor understand. When we look into the heavens, 96% of it is invisible to us. Furthermore, the human eye is only capable of seeing around 0.0035% of the entire spectrum of electromagnetic radiation. This is the tiny portion we refer to as visible light, yet electromagnetic radiation is literally everywhere, existing as radio waves, gamma rays, X-rays, and magnetic fields, permeating all things. As human beings, the perception we have of ourselves and our place in the vastness of the universe is severely distorted. Our reality is built upon a very small fraction of the vast amount of information surrounding us. We live and function under the power of a tremendous illusion crafted by the senses and by the brain, which do their best to give us a functional version of reality from just a small percentage of the entire information available to us. Just think about this for a moment. We are living in an illusion created by our own limiting senses. Long before the scientific method and the advent of technological instruments of scientific measurement, humans intuitively understood that our journey here on Earth is an elaborate illusion. We learned that through spiritual cultivation. Although we believe things are what they appear to be, they are actually completely different. In Hinduism, the manufacturing of this illusion is achieved by the diluting power of the consciousness of God, which is called Maya. Maya is the simulated matrix that creates the illusion which makes us believe that what we consider to existence is actually real. Maya is the creation of the illusion of the three-dimensional world, bound to time and space. It generates the external world, or unreality, while the inner world is replete with deeper meaning, a deeper story, and great mystery. You do not exist to serve the illusion. The illusion exists to serve you. Some of us are gifted with the natural ability to see through Maya, but most are not. Yet in altered states of consciousness, many more of us can pierce the veil to witness a more holistic version of the universe, which incorporates both the natural world and the vastness of the inner world to form a singular, harmonious worldview. What we see with our eyes is an illusion, and what we envision with our mind is reality. This is the difference between sight and vision. For the record, there is seeing, and then there is vision. The process of seeing is often described in clinical terms. Seeing is accomplished by visual receptors tethered to the brain. Vision, however, is accomplished within the mind, which resides in the brain and is aided by intuitive or knowing modalities of consciousness. The human retains the capacity to have both sight and vision. Vision allows the human to meet the object, and sight allows the light of the object to meet the human. This balance in universe brings equity and harmony to that extraordinary gift of visual perception. The great natural shamanic traditions of the world, as well as the psychedelic sciences, are known to induce visions, sending initiates into a virtual reality where the lines between what is real and what is possible are folded together into life-changing moments. The psychedelic experience completely negates the idea that the mind is in the brain. N-dimethyltryptamine, also known as DMT, is a chemical compound found in trace amounts in many plants, animals, and even within the human body. This magnificent substance has been known as the spirit molecule because of the effects it has on human consciousness when taken in concentrated form or when ingested within the visionary Amazonian plant medicine called ayahuasca. The process of successfully brewing this ritualistic drink requires a basic understanding of human biochemistry, so it is unclear how the indigenous people of the Amazon rainforest managed to discover the psychedelic properties of the ayahuasca brew. DMT is believed to be created within the pineal gland, the curious symmetrical organ in the center of the brain, which has for centuries been considered to be the seat of the soul by philosophers and spiritual adepts such as René Descartes. The pineal gland, also known as the third eye, is the gate which gives us access to other realities and dimensions. When taken ceremonially by ancient people as a sacrament to induce a deeper connection to the non-physical realms of life, DMT is unparalleled in its capacity to liberate one from the materialistic assertions about life and human purpose that define our world today. In this way, DMT is the ultimate matrix buster because it carries the psychonautic voyager to a profoundly ineffable state of mind that swiftly draws one toward the realization that human consciousness is severely restricted in our material world. It offers a glimpse into the cosmic infinity of the mind and the universe beyond our understanding, proving that much more is possible than is permitted in contemporary consciousness. DMT, when taken in its raw form, smashes the veil between ordinary and spiritual reality, carrying one into a unique time-space that verifies the multidimensionality of the soul by revealing realms of consciousness which lie beyond our waking awareness. The universe is designed in such a way that matter is never fully destroyed, only broken down into smaller and smaller parts, then reused again and again. Nothing really dies, it just transforms. We human beings are physically composed of atomic matter, which at some point in time provided the substance of stars and astral matter that preceded us. We live in symbiosis with nature, ourselves gathering form from the surrounding elements to provide a vessel for our consciousness, a relationship which still evades scientific explanation. The connection between matter and consciousness is a point of rigorous discussion amongst philosophers and scientists because this is precisely where the greatest mystery of all time exists. On one side of this connection lies a set of facts and objects that behave in accordance with logical rule sets confirmed by the five senses. On the other side lies the inexplicably vast ocean of experience that the human mind can bring forth into awareness. DMT is the spiritual science which allows us to traverse this gap, a feat left to those with the courage to open their minds to the potential found in the chemistry of consciousness. At the beginning of the 20th century, as the deepest parts of the Amazonian jungle were slowly being discovered, modern society gradually became aware of the existence of remote tribes and their shamanic practices permeated into Western culture. As a consequence, DMT was first synthesized in 1931 by Canadian chemist Richard Mensk, and in 1965, French pharmacologist Jacques Poisson isolated the compound from vine leaves used by the Aguaruna Indians that inhabit the jungles of Peru. Since then, many of those who have studied or ingested DMT themselves reported that it was an astonishing substance, and its implications stretched far beyond our comprehension and almost certainly beyond the boundaries of our visible universe. From 1990 to 1995, Dr. Rick Strassman conducted a DEA-approved clinical research at the University of New Mexico, administering more than 400 DMT doses to 60 volunteers. His research made him believe that near the time of death, the pineal gland releases a massive dose of DMT, which could account for the near-death experience phenomenon. When our individual life force enters our fetal body, the moment in which we become truly human, it passes through the pineal and triggers the first primordial flood of DMT. Later, at birth, the pineal releases more DMT. As we die, the life force leaves the body through the pineal gland, releasing another flood of the psychedelic spirit molecule. This burst is thought by Dr. Strassman to be responsible for bringing the human soul home to the source of universal consciousness, reconnecting one's soul to the experience of infinite love and absolute peace. His detailed report on these sessions is a fascinating exploration of the nature of the human mind and the therapeutic potential of psychedelic substances. In 2013, researchers conducted a study that showed DMT was found in the pineal gland of rodents, enforcing Dr. Strassman's controversial hypothesis. The visions and out-of-body experiences of those who took DMT seemed to solidify this claim. They reported being transported to entirely different, yet somewhat familiar dimensions. These dimensions seemed to be governed, or at least inhabited by humanoid beings that were always labeled as otherworldly. After conducting all of these experiments, Dr. Rick Strassman wrote a book based on his research on DMT, called DMT, the Spirit Molecule. In his book, we can also find multiple stories about the beings encountered, documented by the people injected with DMT in over 400 sessions during the course of 5 years. It can be very difficult to write during an intense DMT trip, and sometimes equally hard to recall what happened. For this reason, researchers sat with participants and took notes as they detailed their experiences real-time. Over 50% of the 1,000 pages of notes had some kind of reference to interactions with otherworldly entities. Likewise, Philip Meyer spent 2 decades collecting over 300 DMT trip reports and identified contact with sentient, independently existing beings in over 66% of them. Terence McKenna, an author and a researcher, also wrote and spoke about his interactions with these entities, including the continuously emerging archetype of the spirit guide teacher, who with alien, insect-like, and interstellar qualities was somehow a diplomatic anthropologist come to give us the keys to galactic citizenship. Graham St. John, PhD, who is an Australian cultural anthropologist specializing in event cultural movements, conducted quite a large body of research and anecdotal reports of DMT encounters in Chapter 12 of his book, called Mystery School in Hyperspace. Considering all of the statements made there, DMT beings are usually reported to fall into one or more of the following categories: playful, prankish, or ornery, sometimes looking like weird elves, gnomes, and tykes, who often focus on joking or helping to clean the individual. Anthropomorphic beings, who appear to be extraterrestrial or ultra-dimensional and are usually teachers or guardians. These beings may even include more strangely looking beings, including reptiles, bees, spiders, cacti, mantises, arachnids, robots, jellyfish, and even octopods. Helpers, or guides, taking the semi-humanoid form of angels or multidimensional teachers. These can often manifest as deceased loved ones or family members, giving guidance and teaching lessons, and are known to include spiritual teachers and prophets like Buddha, Jesus Christ, Krishna, Muhammad, and more. Extraterrestrial races, fitting the descriptions of Greys, Blues, Reptilians, Pleiadians, Arcturians, and more, employing the use of probes, implants, or surgeries, usually for research or healing purposes. Some type of galactic council of spiritual elders looking to impart knowledge, galactic laws, and instructions for behavior. Across these accounts, the beings are often reported to have an awareness of us, as Dr. Rick Strassman puts it, with the entities themselves often reacting to the presence of the DMT user, either by welcoming them as travelers, royalty, or long-lost family, treating them as though they have won a contest or game show, or sometimes with surprise and shock, as if the DMT user were an intruder or unwelcome. But after hearing all of these fascinating descriptions, we are left with one big question. Are these DMT entities real beings, existing in other dimensions, or are they simply a hallucination, projection of our imagination? The debate over the subject of entity contact in the DMT-verse has been hotly contested by scientists, psychonauts, philosophers, and theologians. Based upon the DMT trip reports collected over 2 decades, Peter Meyer advanced the following 8 potential theories of entities commonly reported by DMT users. The first theory is that there are no alien entities at all, and it's merely a subjective hallucination, emergence of psychological archetypes. The second is that DMT provides access to a parallel plane, or higher dimension, inhabited by independently existing intelligent entities. The third is that DMT allows awareness of processes at a cellular or even atomic level, maybe even of quantum mechanical processes at the atomic or subatomic level. The fourth is that as a neurotransmitter, DMT causes the older parts of the reptilian brain to dominate consciousness, resulting in a state of awareness that appears totally alien. The fifth theory is that psychedelic tryptamines are the biochemical means by which we contact the universal creator and the divine. The sixth theory is that DMT provides access to the afterlife, the world of the dead, and the entities are the souls or personalities of the departed. The seventh is that DMT entities are beings who have mastered the art of time travel and can communicate with humans without physically materializing. The eighth theory is that the entities are probes from an extraterrestrial or an extra-dimensional species set out to make contact with organisms such as ourselves, who are able to manipulate their nervous systems in a way that allows the communication to take place. Of these 8 theories, Meyer himself favored number 2 and 6, speculating that just as birth is a transition from the womb to a higher dimensional and vastly more complex world, so death, if the mental body is sufficiently developed, is a transition from the world of physical life to the higher dimensional and vastly more complex world of the DMT entities. And yet, we have barely scratched the surface of the theories that have been put forward by various scientists and philosophers about the DMT entities discussed in St. John's book. Here are some theories suggested by these scientists and philosophers. DMT enables us to re-access our perinatal memories. Stanislav Grof. The DMT beings are a part of neuroscientific loop of psychedelic information processing. James Kent. Ingesting high doses exogenous DMT stimulates and reconstitutes ancient brain function. Andrew Gallimore. DMT is the missing link connecting us to beings from ancient shamanic realms through information encoded into our DNA. Graham Hancock. DMT creates mystical visionary states, connecting us to God, similar to the prophets of the Hebrew Bible. Rick Strassman. We have no concrete answers here, only self-reported experiences and theories. Scientifically, it is very challenging, if not impossible, to objectively prove whether these beings exist in our reality or in parallel planes or dimensions, or if they only exist independently in the minds of DMT users. For many of the researchers in this field, including Dr. Rick Strassman, it is hard to deny the feeling of truth and consistency across people's experiences. Indeed, according to St. John, Dr. Strassman has abandoned his strict psychoanalytic model, apparently accepting the authenticity of his subjects' reports. And if you have ever had a level 3 DMT experience, you may have already drawn your own conclusions on the topic, regardless of what science might have to say about it. The most important part of all of this for me is not to objectively, scientifically come to a consensus about who and what the beings are, but to understand and accept that these experiences are loaded with incredible, life-altering meaning for the people who have them. What matters is not if the beings are real in any objective sense, but how their subjective realness can influence people's consciousness, behaviors, identity, and understanding of themselves and their universe. Communication with DMT entities can be absolutely profound and life-changing, regardless as to our objective standard for determining the validity of the entities or the experiences. Therefore, from a psychotherapeutic perspective, it is just as valuable to focus on the function of the entities and how they can inspire our future evolution and growth. Because as Graham St. John concludes, when it comes to objective proof of the entities, our likelihood of establishing their true identity is as futile as nailing the nature of God once and for all. Have you ever met the DMT beings? Do you have a theory about who they are? Please share your theory in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video,